White Sox fans, welcome in to Sox On Tap. It's Johnny Nani here alongside my guy Tony on tap. Tony, coming at you after a very sorry White Sox road trip. Oof, this one hurts.
Oof is right, Johnny. This one was a little bit difficult. I will say that I think I got the series prediction right with our guy Steven over the weekend. One win, a little bit more than what we were somewhat collectively expecting for this series, but the losses in this one hurt, man. 9-3, 9-2. Giving up that many runs, not really a thing to be all too happy about in all regards here. So yeah, it was a pretty sorry, as you said, road trip here.
Yeah, I had to put some sort of branding on it with being up in Canada, playing the Toronto Sorreys up there. They're in the Sorrey state as well, but obviously the White Sox even lower down in the depths. So we'll get our takeaways from the series. Obviously, a lot of bad on the bookends there, but that middle game though, there is some positive to talk about there. Some exciting stuff continuing from Garrett Crochet. So we'll get to that. Another injury, you know who? Everyone knows it. You know it. I know it. It was only a matter of time. We'll get to all of that. And of course, take a look at what's on tap next. That'll be the Baltimore series over this extended weekend. Before we do any of that, make sure you're subscribed over on YouTube at On Tap Sportsnet. Give us a follow on the socials at Sox On Tap and at On Tap Sportsnet. And check out OnTapSportsnet.com for all your Chicago sports, literature, and podcasting needs. All right, Tony, let's jump right in. White Sox lose 2 of 3 in the series. When we start with, giving up all those runs, a couple of Niners on there, that's always tough. Starting from the top, though, Eric Fetty, definitely not as crisp as he had been in his past stretch of starts there. He saw the location go a little bit, and that led to some runs being tacked on early on him. And unfortunately, White Sox not able to rally enough to get behind him. Not to mention poor bullpen day on Monday as well.
Was a poor bullpen day, and obviously Fetty, we've talked about this. He's been a very pleasant surprise for the White Sox this season. We didn't know what we were going to get out of Eric Fetty. I'm still pretty happy with the performance overall on the season. Obviously, you're going to have a couple 2-tree stinkers thrown in there. This one, obviously, not his best day on the mound. There wasn't a whole lot going for the White Sox in general in this game. And after we come out of New York, you get this. I thought he could have potentially acted as the stopper. Steve and I talked about this, though. Toronto is a house of horrors for the Chicago White Sox. Sort of reminiscent, Johnny, a little bit of the Oakland Coliseum, which I'm just going to say this. Sad about the whole Oakland thing. I'm happy that the Sox aren't going to have to play there. Toronto's sort of up in that ilk of House of Horrors for the Chicago White Sox. You can go back and listen to that episode. There's some stats that Steven gave. This series played exactly like we thought it would. Fetty just did not have it on Monday.
Yeah, right. And, you talk about that House of Horrors there. Well, it's getting to be finally a little bit warm up in Canada. So the weather was nice enough to the roof being open, right? Ball carries there. And I think you saw that mostly off the bats of Blue Jays. White Sox did string together a couple of hits, especially in Tuesday's ball game, the one in which they won. But, the ball starts flying, and when ball go far, the general consensus is team will go far. So Blue Jays did that, obviously putting up 9th spot 2 times in the series on the White Sox. All right, let's get to a positive here with Garrett Crochet. Tony's looking like he's back to that first 3-start form here. He's won 4 straight now. I know pitcher wins, losses aren't the end-all be-all anymore, but it's still nice to get that W in there. It tells you, you went 5+ and, got the job done, limiting your damage against. He's also got a 19-inning scoreless streak going. And that win on Tuesday overall for the White Sox snapped an 8-game losing streak overall versus the Jays. So this is a positive one, Tony. Garrett Crochet was dominant. I love Garrett Crochet nights because Pitching Ninja is all about Garrett's nasty stuff on such outings.
Pitching Ninja is all about Garrett's nasty stuff. I think we are too here on this show. Very impressive start. Yes, there was a little bit of a cautionary period where we didn't quite know what was going on with Garrett Crochet. Obviously, he got off to a very strong start this season, hit a little bump in the road, and then looks completely back to form with what he was throwing there on opening day and a couple starts after that. He carried a perfect game through was that close to 5 innings. Maybe tinfoil hat time here, Johnny. We got to break this one down. Sox on Tap contributor Sox Insane. If you don't know who that is, Besnick Zakiri writes for On Tap Sportsnet. Tweeted out almost exactly to the minute. Do you remember the Phil Humber game onto the X timeline? I shouldn't say tweeted. He posted to X. Do you remember the Phil Humber game? And within 2 minutes, the perfect game was broken up. Johnny, I don't know how to feel about this. I don't know if there needs to be disciplinary action within Sox on Tap for this type of behavior, but it's starting to really grind my gears that every time we've got something going, this is just like a reoccurring instance here. But other than that, no, Garrett Crochet was fucking phenomenal in his start this week. But I was just a little bit disappointed. I didn't think Garrett Crochet was going to finish off a perfect game, but let's not ruin things around here, if you know what I'm saying.
Right. Tony, on that front, I feel like there's two schools of people on this, and some are in the superstitious, right? You don't talk about it, you don't mention it, right? Until it actually happens, right? That's the kind of like I don't know, feel like a little bit old school, superstitious way. And then there's a new school that say, well, it doesn't matter because what you say, it doesn't affect the performance on the field. Well, I totally get that. There's something to be said for like some, superstition there. And you're either in on it or out on it. And I'm in on it. So, yeah, I'd like to not mention it if you got a no-hitter, a perfect game going, whatever it may be. But if it's going for the other team, you obviously talk about it all the time so you can try and jinx it. That's just the way that I do it, but I understand there's other people that do it. And you know what? I will give, if anything, our guy Sox Insane is consistent on this. He does it for no hitters. He does it when it's not even approaching it. It'll be like, it's perfect through 1, it's perfect through 2, right? He'll start it early, get the ball rolling on that. And he's been doing that all season. So consistent on that front, and obviously he's in the school of maybe just causing a little havoc on that front. But either way,
there was a mute during game button.
Yeah, a mute for just those scenarios, very specific.
Right. Get through the third inning, and we've got a no hitter going. Just like mute at Sox Insane, and then like it unmutes at the end of the game. You want to play those games? Go ahead.
Elon needs to work on that to customize it for you, Tony.
Yeah, I think that's a perfectly reasonable request. I would actually pay the $8 subscription fee per month to just make sure that my timeline isn't ripe with superstitious shit that's all out there that's gonna ruin the good vibes, the good juju, as our guy Buzz would say in these scenarios. But for all intents and purposes, we're talking about how great Garrett Crochet looked. Man, this has been probably, if not the best starting pitching performance of his season. I mean, there's plenty of them that are up there, but the way that he commanded this lineup, I thought it was a good thing to see. I know that Toronto's got their own struggles here, but there's plenty of names in this lineup that can do damage to you. How many times have we seen over the past couple of years White Sox pitching succumb to giving Vlad Jr. Just the wrong pitch to hit? There's memories of Lance Lynn doing that ripe in my mind, and seeing Crochet sort of navigate the Blue Jays lineup yesterday was pleasant to watch.
Yeah, it was interesting, though. Also, only 4 strikeouts on the night for Garrett Crochet, so he got some sound defense behind him. Overall, it was a crisp, clean ball game from the White Sox. Steven loves those whenever we get a chance to mention those. So wanted to throw that in there. And also a couple other positives. Some opportunistic hitting, 2-out hitting, especially driving in runs. That was encouraging to see on Tuesday. And then, hey, after the stinker on Monday, you go to your leverage guys on Tuesday, and they tackled it. Pedro should be proud because you got Jordan Leisure, Michael Kopech in there, and Kopech's 3 strikeouts strikeouts the end of the game. I think that was very impressive, all looking, Tony.
Yeah, Michael Kopech, man, it's Jekyll and Hyde sometimes with him. But last night that was another impressive performance. Obviously doesn't count as a save here, but seeing him as the ninth inning guy, I like that. This is just a complete win, the way that you want to see the White Sox win. We don't get these very often. We don't get shutout games from the pitching side and then timely hitting, which was key in yesterday's victory. I enjoyed those victory beers a lot because, I sort of called that we were going to get this crochet game potentially. And then also the fact that these runs came, with some 2-out hitting. And what have we wanted, what feels like for years, this White Sox offense to do? It's to strike with runners in scoring position. And those came around yesterday. Obviously, this is not something that happens very too often. So it felt like an off-brand win. It felt like an actual win that's not the way that the White Sox normally go about doing their business.
Right, opportunistic runs early and then even late with Danny Mendick delivering the 2 RBI double off the top of that wall in left field for some insurance runs that just makes you feel so much better going into the latter innings of a game. So last one, Wednesday tonight, it was a stinker, 9-2 loss. Nick Nastrini got called up to make the start after stint in Charlotte. He had been up for 2 starts previously, was down there and took the spot. They kind of flip-flop, putting Clevenger on Thursday, slotting Nastrini in today, and man, the command just wasn't there. This is, since we're in our Canadian theme here, Tony, if you walk a million guys, there's going to be a bunch of runs that come across the plate against you. It's not rocket appliances. And that was the case with Nick Nastrini tonight. Just no command. 3 and third innings, 7 hits, 9 runs, 8 of them earned, 6 walks. Ooh, that's the toughest one for me to swallow. I could deal with runs if they're slapping you around a little bit against a rookie pitcher, but man, the 6 walks, that's just tough to see. And it brings up questions with this that I understand this is third start in MLB, but you start to look down that prospect pool and you're like, ooh, should it have been Drew Thorpe? Ooh, should it have been, all these other guys? And sure, they might not be as far along in the development as a Nastrini or Cannon in terms of MLB ready, but it just makes you think like that just when you go and see someone go out there and underperform on the big stage.
Absolutely. And, obviously this is small sample size theater. With these 3 big league starts, there's been a little bit of good. There's been flashes of things that you want. He doesn't strike me as a guy at this point, Johnny, and maybe you see this differently. He doesn't strike me as a guy that's going to overpower you. And that's fine.
I think the stuff tells you that, just where he sits in terms of the 93 to 94 typically on the fastball, and you got to be pinpoint if you're going to be throwing at that velo level.
That's exactly what I was going to get to. So if he's not blowing you away, you have to be pinpoint control. You have to have movement, and you've got to be able to work around hitters and use your defense to get some outs. That just wasn't working today for Nick Nastrini, and we'll see how he bounces back from this. Obviously, the White Sox designated Brad Keller for assignment. He gone. I'm happy with that. But that said, I kind of look at his rotation spot right now as sort of up for grabs. You mentioned a couple of different names that are within this White Sox minor league system that could come up and grab some starts here. I think they'll go to him next turn through the rotation. I don't think you want to send this kid down after that. Obviously, that would be the knee-jerk reaction move to it. But get him some stability here. Maybe you go back to Jonathan Cannon if things don't work out another time around, but I'd like to see him get another chance at a major league start here and see if he can right the ship. That said, temper expectations. That's my message.
Right.
He's working through stuff.
I'm totally with you on that front. And it's part of the growing pains. Unfortunately, this is just where we're at. The state of the organization, these guys getting called up for their MLB debuts earlier in the season. And now you're going to go through it was his first outing that he was, for the most part, very effective outside of one mistake I want to say he made back in his late April outing. And that's where kind of people got excited, right? And I get it. Don't get me wrong. It's like you want to see the young guys come up and perform. And for the most part, that was good. But then you run into some trouble the next time around. It leads back to Charlotte. And then you're hoping that, okay, maybe that can get you right. And just to have a stinker like that, it'd be one, like I said, it would be one thing if he gave up like 5-6 runs, but it was because, he was just getting hit. And the guys that he's going up against are professional hitters, been doing this for years, and he's just a rookie in his first year. And they find gaps, or they, hit a pitch that's maybe out of the zone that dinks and dunks, and you got runners on and they score. But no, the walks, it's self-inflicted there, and you can't have that. Got to have that control when the stuff isn't overpowering. I feel like we're glossing over this again, but it's just the fact of the matter. That's end all be all for Nick Nastrini. So I'm with you. I do.
Are we in fire Bannister mode over this one?
He got extended after Crochet's outing, so I think he's going to have to be fired tonight. And especially, there's no Steve here to push back on that for me. So I think Bannister's fired tonight. So see if he gets an extension over the weekend, though. He could be back in the mix. So we got to get to another storyline from the series, Tony. It happened in Tuesday's game. The win, everything was going so great. And then Eloy Jimenez trying to score on a Corey Julks double in the 5th inning. And of course, what does he do? Running the bases, comes up limp, and it's a hamstring strain. Was placed on the IL before Wednesday's game. Tony, this is just yet another soft tissue injury for Eloy. But if you ask the ex-GM, he's not injury prone.
No, he's seemingly not injury prone, Johnny. And this has been a topic that I think I've been on for quite a long while. If we go back into the On Tap Sportsnet archives, I believe at some point around 2020, 2021, I was writing about this and why Eloy Jimenez needs to be a DH. It's interesting that this comes a day after Pedro Grifol utilizes him in right field. Obviously, I'm not trying to draw conclusions with this. It's just an interesting sub note to the whole
coincidence.
Story. Yeah, it's just it's a coincidence. We're going to go through these. We have to go through these. There was a graphic that was displayed on tonight's post-game show. And, I think this really flies in the face of White Sox fans and how we've been sort of sold bags of goods that aren't exactly what they are. There was a quote from Rick Hahn, and this comes, back, I believe, in 2022. I will read this before we get to these injuries. This was courtesy of NBCSportsNet.com. General Manager Rick Hahn took issue with Eloy Jimenez being labeled as, quote, injury prone in wake of the White Sox slugger going down with a hamstring injury. Couldn't be further from the truth in terms of the fact that he's missing significant time this year and last year. That's the extent that you can call this guy injury prone. Hahn, who met with the media for 20 minutes on Tuesday, caught wind of the, quote, lazy analysis of characterizing Eloy Jimenez as such. All right, let's just go through this, Johnny, and you tell me if you believe that this is not an injury-prone human. April 26, 2019, ankle injury. July 16th, 2019, elbow injury. August 22nd, 2019, for his 3rd injury of the 2019 season, injures his hip. We come into the 2020 season, lightheadedness in late July of 2020. We're not sure what caused that at all. Then we had a foot injury in September and a secondary foot injury that was suffered in October. I think we all remember that specific injury. Eloy comes back in that series against the Oakland A's, re-injures the foot. Then we've got the infamous spring training, tried to rob a home run in left field, pectoral tear. That was kept him out until midway through the season. Comes back from that and proceeds to injure his groin in late July. as soon as he returns from that injury, winds up busting his knee. That was 2021. So we tallied 4 there, 3 in 2019, 3 in 2020, 4 in 2021. In 2022, we start the year in April. On April 13th, goes down with a hamstring injury. Then comes back in July. Are we witnessing a pattern yet, people? Comes back in July, injures his leg, and then recovers from the leg injury. We get to August, we injure our elbow. That kept him out for a little while. It was actually, the elbow was a short one. Comes back and immediately proceeds to injure his leg again September 1st of 2022. We get to 2023. This is last year. We start the year in April once again with a hamstring injury. This one was unfortunate. I'll give Eloy the benefit of the doubt. Once he recovers from that, he goes down with an appendicitis, had surgery. I don't know if I really consider that one to be a baseball injury.
No.
But it's on this list. Then
caused him to miss time regardless.
It did cause him to miss time. It comes back from that. This is legitimately a month and 3 days later, injures his leg on June 8th of 2023. Comes back from that injury, plays a couple weeks, hurts his heel in August, almost a month later to the date. Actually 2 months later to the date. August 4th, 2023, goes down with the leg injury. That one was another short-lived injury. Comes back from that and then pulls a groin on August 16th. So far this season, we get to 2024. We're in April again. April 1st, we've got an abductor strain. Comes back from that, 2 or 3 weeks, back on the field for the Sox this season. And we make it to May, and we've got another hamstring injury. I think I just talked for probably like 2 or 3 minutes, and I was just reading Eloy Jimenez injuries. That is the guy that our former GM, who built this team, the predecessor of Chris Getz, built this team, told people that it was lazy analysis, that this guy is injury prone. I don't know about you. I think it's injury prone. Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, it's 100%. You just went through all the lists, so there are the actual sources. But any White Sox fan who's watched this team over the last 5 years, you know it. I know it. Everybody knows it. Those are my sources cited. You just look at the guy. I don't know how we can't run through bases. We've rehashed this so many times, right? So many years of doing Sox on Tap and having to deal with these injury updates. And now I'm kind of, our guy Sal, he's kind of just on the, shrug, who cares anymore? I'm on that page as well. But all those that you had listed off before this season were all in seasons in which they were supposed to compete. Maybe save 2019. That was his first taste of big leagues, though, and they were still on the upcome towards the window, the 2-year window, right? I just have nothing but apathy on this front. I'm on the Tony. I legitimately would just like him to be DFA'd, so we don't have to even fucking worry about this anymore. I mean, ideally, you'd like to get a lottery ticket. Somebody would take a chance on him at the trade deadline, but who the hell is going to go and look at that list that you just saw and then go and hear his comments about, oh no, I don't have a routine for playing DH. I want to be in the outfield. And he gets injured after playing one game in the outfield. Once again, coincidence, but at the same time, it's clear that there's nothing clicking there physically. Nothing's changing on that front. He's prone to these injuries. Sorry, Rick Hahn. That's the cold, hard truth. He's prone to these injuries. They're going to continue to happen, and it's in just regular baseball plays, not even full exertion. What's
if you put this guy in a CarMax lot and somebody walked in, tried to buy it, and looked at the Carfax, they'd realize that this thing has been in fucking a million accidents, and the whole body has been rebuilt with spare parts. I want him to do well. I want him to do well. I like Eloy Jimenez as a player. I wish that this worked out better. This is just This is crazy.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he's not the only one. Remember, I know that graphic that was like updated because remember that was the first time he got injured early this season. They had that graphic. Of course, they had a new one here for the one that occurred during the series against Toronto. But there's another one in there with Yohan Moncada, and he's kind of on the on the shelf right now in terms of clearly not on the roster and on the 60-day IL. With that injury suffered earlier this season. But then it's also off the forefront of White Sox fans' minds, right? To go and add all of this up, and it's nothing but frustration, and it's driven me to apathy at this point. I just don't care about these guys anymore. And he said, "You like Eloy Jimenez?" I'd kind of detest him now. I'm sick of him. I don't want to see him. A DFA would be my preferred course of action, but I don't think that's happening. He's probably going to play out the rest of the season. Who knows how many more injuries we can tack onto that? Maybe that'll be a fun game. Maybe we can see if there's like an over that we can set at like 2.5 more injuries or something like that. Maybe that's the route to go here to stomach the rest of this, because we got to find some sort of entertainment value. And I hate to say that, we're finding entertainment value in a guy getting injured, but unfortunately the guy is just injury prone. And it's very similar injuries in terms of adductor, right? Your groin. It's hamstring. These are muscles used running the bases, which other guys can do in seemingly violent fashion, whereas he can't even do in casual fashion or just normal speed. It's beyond frustrating.
I don't know, man. Like, I am not an in shape person. And I feel like I don't like, I played wiffle ball with my cousins this past weekend. Now, I ran the bases hard. I was diving around out there. I didn't sustain an injury running the bases. I didn't really stretch beforehand, but like, I can get my body going. This is a professional fucking athlete. You know what I mean? Like, that's what doesn't make sense to me here. This is a professional athlete, a guy whose sole job is to keep his body in tip-top shape. And the injuries that are suffered outside of like trying to rob the spring training home run that was 6 rows deep, which is probably just a mental mistake that caused that injury. I don't think mental mistakes cause the base running stuff.
No.
That's just poor preparation, in my opinion, or a ton of bad luck. But when they add up this way, I don't like something's just not right with that.
There's we don't need to hammer on this too much more. There probably is some bad luck involved, but guess what? I guarantee every Major League Baseball player that has a significant tenure, I'm talking even like at least like 2 to 5 seasons, right? Because that's where Eloy is, right? 5 or 6, right? Probably some stretch of bad luck at some point that leads to an unfortunate injury. But, those guys can bounce back from it and not have it recur and pile up with the ones that are just lack of preparation injuries, or just your body's just not, fit to handle it, or you don't prepare it in a way that makes it fit to handle it. It's a long, drawn out saga, and I can't wait for it to come to an end.
It's probably coming to an end at the end of this season. It's unfortunate. It really is from a overarching standpoint. This was a guy that I expected to be in the middle of the White Sox order.
Expectations when acquired versus what we're talking about now, night and day.
My expectations for him is that he's going to get injured.
Oh yeah, now. But at the time, I think one of our panelists here at one point said, as a bold prediction during that window, that Eloy Jimenez would be the first White Sox player in history to hit the 50 home run mark in a season, right? That's kind of bad that we're talking about with like potential and what, maybe that's a little bit high. And like once again, bold prediction on that front. But that's seriously where you were when you're talking about, because it is an easy swing. It's easy power when he does get a hold of it. But all the stuff in between, on your singles, on your doubles, on your, I'm just on base and I got to score on this double, it's over.
At least we keep him away from the nets in the outfield, unless Pedro Grifol decides to throw him out in right field. I mean,
what
What do you like? I know you say DFA, but like, what is the ultimate like reclamate? Like, is there any value here in your mind, or are you just totally done?
No, I'm totally done. I mean, they're not going to do that just with the money that's committed to them, right? It's going to be end of the season, and they're just going to go their separate ways. But I think Chuck and Ozzy brought up a good point on their post game show. Who even wants to go and sign this guy afterward like that? Like, it's going to have to be like a minor league deal. Like, I'm legitimately.
That's what I say. It's sad. It's sad that it's at that point. I mean, this is a guy that was the headliner for the Jose Quintana trade.
Right. And you know what? If he's on one of those, say with another team, it's not going to be, he's been, within this organization here like he was with the White Sox, essentially guaranteed a spot, right? I mean, let's be honest, he was essentially guaranteed the DH spot last year, this year, right? He hasn't really had a fight for it since 2019. Even then, he was pretty much handed it from opening day, right? And granted, different stage of the rebuild then. But he's going to have to actually show something in spring training in order to make a major league roster. I don't think he's capable of doing that because I don't think he's capable of staying healthy in that stretch. So that's the tale of Eloy Jimenez. Can't come to an end soon enough in my mind, but here we are in May. So buckle up for another summer of it, another summer of sadness.
I'm just curious, and I'm trying to pull some stat head data here because I'm wondering if Avisail Garcia had a more successful career than Eloy Jimenez, and I never would have thought that to be the case. But if you go back to early rebuild days, some people made a case to keep Avisail Garcia around. So I'm just gonna pull these right now just to see. I mean, it could be completely far off, but I'm really, really curious. Really, really curious to see what these match up with career wise, because I would have imagined that Avisail Garcia would have in no way touch Eloy Jimenez. And I pulled the career numbers. Eloy's 271 career hitter, Avisail Garcia 263. OBP is right in range, 321 for Eloy, 316 for Garcia. Slug, Eloy sort of tops him out, but Garcia had the speed, and man, I think that if you look at some RBI numbers, I just got the career numbers. I'd have to go back and look and see what it was through their like first 5 years in the big leagues. But yeah, if Eloy Jimenez is Avisail Garcia, I guess you could just sort of let him walk.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen. So that's just the latest in the Eloy saga here. So we got to move it on, Tony. Getting close to wrapping up this show. Thanks everyone for tuning in here on Sox on Tap on this Wednesday, May 22nd. After that, Sorrey road trip by the White Sox, going 1-5 on that. They returned home, open up a homestand with a 4-game set against the Baltimore Orioles. Tony, Orioles are coming in, and they are coming off of a sweep, getting swept by the St. Louis Cardinals, who had been playing underwhelming baseball for the most part early on this season. So interesting turn there for Baltimore, but we know that there's star power that's in that lineup, young star power on that front. Like I said, we're looking at a 4-gamer starting Thursday. It'll be Mike Clevenger versus Grayson Rodriguez. Friday, that dreaded Macintosh TV Plus game. Chris Flexen on the mound against Corbin Burns. Saturday, Eric Fetty takes him out against Dean Kramer, and Sunday will be Garrett Crochet against Kyle Bradish. So thoughts on the series going in? Tough opponent, but you're back home. Maybe a little bit of change of tune, and you got 2 of your better pitchers going in this series, especially Saturday, Sunday.
This one's going to be a tough one. As Steve and I talked about on Wednesday, this schedule for the next month is rather brutal for the White Sox, and this is just part of it right here, sort of at the front end of it with the Baltimore Orioles. This is a really, really good young team. I think everybody knows that if you watch some baseball. I could see them hitting the ball out of the ballpark pretty consistently. And as you said earlier, ball go far, team go far. That's what Baltimore can do. There's plenty of power in that lineup. I hope we get one out of this series. It's going to be hard to split, in my opinion, just with the way that this year has gone. But if you can get one of these games and just one victory beers throughout the holiday weekend here, Johnny, it'll be at least something to give White Sox fans to be happy about. I really think that this is going to be the stretch of the schedule that the Sox are not going to be able to overcome. You look at tonight's ball game, and I can sort of see, if you're struggling to put together any sort of offense against Toronto tonight, obviously Baltimore can pour it on. Do we see like a 15-run performance from Baltimore this weekend? I think we do. I really think we do.
It very, very well could come in one of the first two games of that series, Tony. Unfortunately, Chris Flexen, not the outing that he wanted to have last time when he was pitching in the Bronx. So you take another dangerous lineup that he'll be facing on Friday night. And you're going up against the ace of the Baltimore Orioles on Friday, Corbin Burns. So, I feel like a lot of Sox fans will just be glad to not tune in to Apple TV Plus on that. Just go ahead and bypass that one. That might be one of those games that you want to skip. Maybe just check in on it, see how it's going. I do think, though, just realistic predictions looking at this, I can see them winning one of the Saturday or Sunday. I'll take Sunday with Garrett Crochet on the mound, and maybe I feel like Baltimore's bullpen might be a little more saved on Saturday because I imagine Corbin Burns will go deep into that game on Friday night. Saturday, they may have to use it more extensively, though. That may leave a little bit diminished on Sunday, and Garrett Crochet is Garrett Crochet. And we just talked about an excellent outing that he had, even doing it in a little bit non-conventional fashion for him in terms of, high strikeout numbers. We've seen 11. He only got 4 last time and was still extremely effective. So I'll take us to win Sunday. That's my prediction.
There you go. I'll ride that with you and say Sunday's going to be the date too. I don't think Garrett Crochet in a high strikeout game is going to get the job done. I think he needs to work the same way he did in this Toronto series, utilize the defense, keep his pitch count to a minimum, and get as deep into a ball game as you possibly can. I think that's a sense of maturity that we're seeing from him on the mound. I wanted to add that in that, like, hey, you don't have to be overly dominant in some of these starts and rack up 9-10 strikeouts. I know that's cool and tough, but I'd rather Garrett Crochet get me to the 6th or 7th inning than be out of a ball game in the 5th inning with 10 Ks.
Right. I concur. That's, like you said, maturing, finding ways to get it done in other ways besides just blowing everybody away. So I think that does it for this episode of Sox on Tap. We appreciate everybody for tuning in. Make sure you're subscribed over on YouTube on Tap Sportsnet there so you don't miss a show when we go live. Give us a follow on the socials at Sox on Tap and at On Tap Sportsnet, and check out ontapsportsnet.com for all your Chicago sports, literature, and podcasting needs. All right, that'll do it for a Sorrey White Sox road trip. This edition of Sox on Tap is over. Until next time, White Sox forever.
White Sox forever.